Okay, so we're going to learn about China today. I'm sorry I'm not with you today, so you're going to have to do it this way. You're going to go ahead and take out your China notes. I know they look different than the way that we normally take them, so it's a new packet. This packet is going to go with all of China. So get out the packet. You're going to fill in the words that are missing. Okay? This is your vocabulary for the unit. We're doing it this way so that you can easily keep up with the packets and not lose them. On the left-hand side of your piece of paper, it says thinking bar. On the left side of your notes, where it's a big giant space, take the vocabulary words, isolate, dynasty, humility, facilitate, and mandate a heaven. You're going to jot down the words and the vocabulary. So if you want to just write isolate to remove, and then you want to write dynasty, royal family, humility to be humble, facilitate to make easy, mandate a heaven, the belief that heaven gave emperors the right to rule. Pause the screen video and write down the words and the definitions under the thinking bar on the left side of your paper. Okay, this is a picture of where China is in the world. China, on the right-hand side, is in Asia, on the continent of Asia. If you look at the picture, you can see on the right there's a giant ocean. And on the left side of China, you have the Himalaya Mountains, which separates India from China. Okay, so China was easily isolated for a really long time, and it was ruled by people that were from China and different ruling families from China. There was no outsiders invading because it was so isolated and nobody could easily get in and invade. Okay, you're going to look at your notes in the center of the page, and I want you to fill out the missing words. Classical China was centered on the Huanghe or Yellow River. Sometimes it's called the Huanghe, sometimes it's called the Huanghe, and sometimes it's called the Yellow River. Go ahead and fill in your notes. Okay, I'm going to back up to the last slide, and then we're going to talk about this slide. Okay, so looking at this picture, you can see that China was really isolated. Mountains were on the left, oceans were on the right. Nobody could invade. And what they did was they built a great wall so they could keep out the possible invaders that were coming in from the north or from any of the sides. That Great Wall of China was not built overnight. It took many years, and Qin Shi Huangdi, who's a ruler, helped connect that Great Wall when he was ruling. Okay, things to consider. China, even though it was isolated, needed some sort of wall to protect against invaders. I want you to write Mongols, M-O-N-G-O-L-S, next to invasions. So go ahead and fill in the missing words. Qin Shi Huangdi is the one that built the Great Wall. He built it specifically because he wanted to keep out the Mongols, which were a threat at the time, and were probably the biggest invading group during the time that was trying to conquer most of Asia. Okay, this kept out all of the invaders for a really long time because there were watchtowers in it and it was really, really long. I'll show you a picture in a minute. Okay, go ahead and fill these out. Okay, I need you to listen carefully because I'm going to explain how China ruled for so many years and what their government and their empire sort of looked like. You're going to need to be able to explain this to me and explain this to your sub when he asks you in order to do the activity today. So please make sure that if you need to rewind the slides, that you listen to what I'm saying so that you're able to explain it back to him. China is ruled by a series of dynasties. That's like a bunch of families ruling China or ruling ancient China for different periods of time. China ruled each family for different periods of time. So, for example, there was the Qin dynasty, the Zhou dynasty, the Han dynasty, the Song dynasty. These are all different types of families that rule for that long period of time. So, if I were in charge of the classroom, we would say, if we're thinking about Robinson, that Miss Creech has been granted the mandate of heaven to rule her classroom for many, many years. And because you're passing the SOL and you're passing the tests and you're doing really well in the classroom, that I get to keep the mandate of heaven. That Mr. Eline is going to let me to continue to be a teacher. But if I rule for like 300 years and you continue to do well, he'll let me keep teaching. However, the minute that you start failing your SOLs and that you start failing your classes and failing your tests and doing really poorly, he could very easily come in and say, Miss Creech has lost the mandate of heaven and therefore another teacher needs to succeed her, which means that my power would be given to somebody else. The mandate of heaven is given to a ruling family in China from the heavens. They believe, each family, that they have the right to rule that is justified from the heavens. Go ahead and fill in the missing notes and try to be able to understand this. Okay, this is just a picture, again, of China and India. The Himalayas separate the two. The ocean's on the right side, and Mongolia is on top of China. Mongolia is where the Mongols are from. That is the reason that that Great Wall was built, to keep them out specifically, and any other invaders that were coming in from the north. Okay, this is a picture of the Great Wall. You can go visit it today. It's still there. Okay, it's extremely long. You can see the watchtowers on it. Qi Shi Huangdi, spelled with a Q, is the emperor that connected that Great Wall that had started to be built before he actually was the ruler. Okay, now's where it gets different. I want you to look at the same set of notes that you've been taking notes on. Go to the bottom of the page where it says summary section. On the very bottom, I want you to explain in 2 sentences what dynasty means and what succession means. In 2 simple sentences. Pause the video, think about it, write it, and then hit play again so that I can tell you what the answer is. Okay, dynasty means a ruling family. That when someone dies, that the next person in line from that very same family takes over. Succession means that another family is going to take over when that family has no many people left to rule, or that they've lost the mandate of heaven. That means that another family has come in and taken over ruling for another period of time. Each dynasty lasted hundreds of years. One of them lasted 800, one of them lasted 600, one of them lasted 200. It just depends on what type or how long of a time period that we're looking at for China's history. China, we measure their ancient history by dynasties. Okay, you're going to look at this picture and I want you to look anywhere in this circle. If you started at the very top where it says strong dynasty establishes peace and prosperity, put your finger there as I go around in the circle and tell you about the dynastic cycle. This is very important that you're able to tell me what this means and explain it to the sub, and then explain it in a drawing that you're going to do next. So listen. Okay. Strong dynasty. Let's look at it like China. There's a Creech family that rules in China. It is considered to be a good dynasty. Things are going great. There's peace. There's prosperity. People are growing things. Everyone is happy. They are following rules. And then we move to the right. The Creech dynasty starts to decline. Even though I have died, my sons have become very greedy. They have raised the taxes. It's become corrupt. And the power of that dynasty grows weaker. Then we go to the bottom. Bad things start to happen in China while my family is ruling. People start starving. There's a famine. There's a flood. And the peasants, the people that live in China while I'm ruling, start to fight with one another. Go to the middle box. After that famine and after the people start fighting, my dynasty is losing the mandate of heaven because I can't control it anymore. Because there are floods that are happening. There are famines that are occurring. People are fighting. Taxes are raised. And my peasants start to talk to one another. And quickly, they are saying that I have lost the mandate of heaven. That heaven is not looking down on me saying that I can rule anymore in my family. So another family comes in and they overthrow my dynasty. Okay, so it becomes the Maguire dynasty, where this new dynasty emerges and the new dynasty gains power, peace, and order and claims that they have the mandate of heaven. And all of a sudden the peace restores, the power is restored, the taxes are lower, and everyone is peaceful again. Until the next group comes in, bad things start to happen, and another group takes over again. Okay? So now what you're going to do is you're going to look at the piece of paper that you have in front of you with the dynastic cycle, and you're going to have to do both sides. You're going to need to do the writing where you explain a cycle to me. Someone comes in, things are great, something gets bad and happens, you lose the mandate of heaven, people start fighting, another dynasty comes in and takes over. I don't care if you explain it like something that's happening today. People did the president today as an example. Some people did McDonald's taking over and then being ruled by Chipotle. And then some people explain Chipotle and the food poisoning and losing the mandate of their fast food restaurant and another one taking over. It doesn't have to be where you're explaining me the dynastic cycle in China. You can explain it by either something that's happening today or something that happened a long time ago in China. What would make another dynasty come in and take over and explain the cycle to me? One side is writing, one side is pictures. And then you're going to need to turn it in to get your credit from today. Some people did football. They talked about they were players. The players were doing really well. He was winning a bunch of games. They were going to the Super Bowl, and then someone got injured and they started losing all their games, and then the owner traded them and bought another team, and it just kind of kept cycling from there. So be able to explain the dynastic cycle in China as your activity. When you're done, you're going to watch a video with contributions of things that are invented in China. Just a preview today of what you're going to learn for the next 2 weeks. Okay. Put your notes in your binder when you're done drawing out the dynastic cycle, and make sure that you've made a new tab for China.